to understand how a child with attachment disorder feels, okay, if you put yourself like in their place, it's like if you had to walk down an alley. Okay, now I flew into Chicago. I don't know if there's any bad alleys in Chicago, you know. Apparently there are. Okay, so if you had to go down a bad alley in Chicago or New York or LA, somewhere where there's bad alleys, all right. We're in Naperville right now. I don't think they have any bad alleys here. But if you had to go down this alley at night, okay, so here you are. Okay, shouldn't be in this alley, but I have to go down here. And 5 big guys jump out and they're pounding you and they're kicking you and they're pulverizing you and you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta get out of here. Oh, this is the scariest thing that ever happened to me. Oh man, I'm never going in that alley again. Almost died. That was terrible. I'm all stressed out. Oh man. Well, if you had to go down that same alley the next night, the same alley, you have no choice. Who would you want to go with you? How about your grandmother? Yeah. Now you know your grandmother loves you so much, your grandma would lay down her life for you. Would you call up your grandma and say, Grandma, I got to go down this alley. Come and help me. Would you? No? You're shaking your heads. Why not? Right, it's not safe for her. She's not strong enough to take on these guys. So who would you want to go with you down this alley? You get one person. Arnold, yeah. Okay, now it's a political statement, so I'm not sure we want to make that. But somebody who's built like Arnold, right? Okay, Arnold Schwarzenegger, a muscle guy, right? So now if I called Arnold, okay, oh, Mr. Schwarzenegger, I have to go down this alley, and I'm scared because there was 5 big guys, and they jumped on me and hurt me. Would you please go down the alley with me? Well, he would probably say, well, Nancy Thomas, I don't know you. Why in the world am I going to take on 5 guys for you? So what we need is a combination between Grandma and Arnold, okay? That's what these children are looking for. And they test everybody in their environment. Can I trust you? Can you keep me safe? Could you keep them from raping me? Could you keep them from taking my food away? Could you keep them from snatching me from my mother? That's what they're looking for. So they test every adult that they are entrusted to. They test the teacher. They test the new parents. They test the neighbors. Anybody they are entrusted to, they test. The first test they put all adults through is, can I interrupt you? Now, I know none of you flunked that test. But I did a few times. You know, a normal child, they get all excited about something. Oh, I got to tell you what's happening. They don't notice you're talking. They interrupt. Child with attachment disorder observes the situation. Oh, she's talking. Let's see if I can get her off of her subject onto mine. And they come and they interrupt. So I don't know what's going on in their brain at any given moment. So I correct them all the same. When I have a child interrupt me, I say, oh, I see you have something important to say. I want you to write a paragraph about what it is. And when I finish talking, you and I'll sit down, we'll discuss it. If they're too little to write a paragraph, I have them draw a picture. I don't want you to forget what it is. Draw a picture about it, and we'll talk about it when I'm done. So I'm saying with my actions, what you have to say is very important, and I care about it. And you're going to work harder on your interrupting issue than I am so that you can learn to wait and be patient. All right? So can I interrupt you is the first test they put all adults through, and we need to be ready. The second test they put all adults through is, can I get you to repeat yourself? Now, I know none of you have failed that particular test, but I did. You know, and they don't say, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Would you please say that again? They do what we call goose honking. Huh, 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 huh. And we just go say it over, say it over, say it over. I don't repeat myself. Now, with children with attention deficit disorder, teachers and parents have been told to make sure the directions are very, very clear. You have the child's full attention so that, you've got the whole thing. So what's happening? I'm going to over-dramatize it. But it's kind of like, I want you to do page 4. Page number 4. What is it that I want you to do? Page number 4. Very good listening. All right? Can you see them when they grow up and they're in the office? I want you to design a bridge. Here's a picture of a bridge. What is it that I want you to do? It's not going to happen. And teachers are told to modify the program for children that have problems in school. Give them less spelling words, less math problems, less exercise for the brain. Well, I've worked with adults who were diagnosed with ADD and were in school with the modified program. And you know what they say? I didn't get to do the work the other kids got. And I felt stupid. I was put in the dumb reading group, and I felt stupid. We're hurting their self-esteem, trying not to hurt their self-esteem, all right? So, second test, can I get you to repeat yourself? I don't repeat myself. You know how I teach children how to listen? I say, I want you to sweep the floor, and there's a quarter under the rug in the bathroom. When you finish sweeping the floor, I want you to put the broom and the dustpan right here in this closet, and there's candy and the toilet paper roll in the bathroom. When you finish putting the broom and the dustpan in the closet, come and let me know you're done. And the children are like, did you say something about candy in the bathroom? I said, oh, I don't repeat myself. And they start going, you got to listen to everything she says. And in the classroom, I have teachers say, okay, here's your homework, here's your paper. I want you to get these all filled out. When you get them filled out, I want you to bring them up and put them in this basket over here. Unless you want to go to recess 5 minutes early, then put them in this one over here. All right, class, begin. And when the children go to recess 5 minutes early, except for the ones who weren't listening, they're all like, how come you guys are going to recess 5 minutes early? The teacher said, really? You got to listen to everything that she says, because stuff comes in there when you're not listening. And they learn to turn them on instead of, oh, you know what, the teacher's got to make sure that I hear everything. Oh, the teacher wasn't clear enough. The teacher didn't write it on the board 5 times and print out a paper and put it. They have one place where the teachers have to go online and put the homework in there so the children don't have to listen in school. Can you imagine the extra work? Unbelievable. No way. No way. All right. First test, can I interrupt you? Second test, can I get you to repeat yourself? The third test, can I get you to believe my lies? Now, a normal child, if you say, oh, did you spill that? No, I didn't do it. They don't want to get in trouble. These children lie just for fun. I had corn with dinner last night. Oh, corn is good. I like corn. They didn't have corn. They had green beans. And they go, look how stupid you are. You think I had corn? You can't tell the difference between corn and green beans. I'm smarter than you are. I'm a little child. I'm this big. You're an adult. You're that big. And I am smarter than you. And we flunked. And we have no idea we were even being tested. But it's really interesting. When you're in the middle of a spelling test and they need to announce what they had for dinner last night, what are the odds that this is really the truth? Okay. I had one, I was taken into a new therapist, and the child holds up his shoe like this and said, these are my new shoes. And I looked, and the therapist started to say, oh, those are not, oh my gosh, those are your brother's shoes. He stole the shoes. And it was, are you going to catch me? Ooh. All right. If you believe their little lies, they'll give you bigger ones. Oh, my dad has sex with me on Wednesdays. And Thursdays. And then he brings all his friends. Oh, my gosh. All right? But they start with the little lies, and they grow from there. The fourth test, can I steal from you? Doesn't matter what it is, if it's a piece of candy sitting on a desk, if it's a rubber band or a paper clip on the floor, they tie their shoe, pick it up, and they say, I have your possession. I have outsmarted you. And they don't want the thing. They throw it away or give it to another kid. They're always giving stuff to other kids. That's not theirs usually, okay? But it's, I've overpowered you. I've outsmarted you. So we need to be very aware. The last test before they're hurting and killing other children is hurting or killing animals. All of the serial killers that the FBI have profiled, every single one of them hurt and killed animals before they hurt and killed people. Many of the schoolyard shooters had been cruel to animals before they went to school and shot and killed people. So we need to be aware of that. Chronic crazy lying. They just love to see if somebody will believe them. They make up all kinds of outrageous stuff. No impulse controls. They see it, they want it, they take it. They're often diagnosed hyperactive. Now, hyperactive is useless movement, okay? Like, the foot goes or the hand goes or something. That's useless movement. Hypervigilant is a lot of movement as well, but it's like this. I got to see what everybody's doing. Who's behind me? Somebody could jump on me. Okay, it's a lot of work controlling everybody in your environment because you have trust issues. So hypervigilance and hyperactive are both a lot of movement, but you need to be very aware because hyperactive, they need some help. Hypervigilant, they need to learn to trust. And when they learn to trust, they calm, they settle, they can focus in school, they don't need medication. Learning lags and disorders, we're going to talk about the brain. Some of our children are, all of our children are very bright, but some of them are so bright that they have to show they're smarter than the teacher and they're smarter than any child in the class, and they are the top in the class, always. And some of them go the other way. I'm not doing it. I know the answer, but I'm not telling you. And it says on their report card, does not work up to potential, does not work up to potential, not working up to potential, okay? Lack of cause and effect thinking. This is why normal interventions don't work. With children that have this part of the brain functioning, you can do the positive reward system. You can do the sticker charts and the smiley face charts. How many of you have tried sticker charts and smiley face charts? Okay. Well, with children with attachment disorder, it's a complete bust. Because they say, well, you're getting a sticker on the chart. That means you win, I lose. Why in the world would I want you to get a sticker on your chart? It's not my chart, it's yours. The cause and effect part of the brain doesn't work. So traditional parenting, where we say, hey, we're going to go out for ice cream if you get your stuff done. I don't want ice cream. I want to be boss. The cause and effect part of the brain doesn't develop because that first year cycle of life where they have a need, they call to have their needs met. When their needs met, they learn to trust. That develops the cause and effect part of the brain. So it has been interrupted. They don't learn from their past. Lack of conscience. This is what stops us from hurting each other, and this is why attachment is such a huge issue. The first schoolyard shootings they had, one of the first ones, they said, it was in Kentucky, I believe. They said, oh, those boys went and shot the other kids, they pulled the fire alarm and had the kids come out. They did that because they had access to guns, and they had been taught how to shoot guns. They had been taken hunting. Well, think about it. How many of you could figure out how to pull a trigger or already know? Raise your hand. All right, all right. Now, how many of you, unless you're a police officer or military, have gone and killed somebody? Whew, always glad nobody raised their hand right there. All right. Now then they had I'm from Colorado, they had the Columbine killings in Colorado, and they had those two teenage boys who went down the hallways with the rifles and shot and killed so many. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. And they said, oh, that's because they watched violent movies and played violent video games. Okay, tell the truth. How many of you have seen a violent movie or played a violent video game? Raise your hand. Arnold, right? All right. Now, how many of you went and did what was in the movie? Whew. All right. That's not what makes people violent. Oh, and then one of these last ones, they said, oh, the child had been bullied, and he went and shot the bully. All right, think about it. When you were a child, how many of you were bullied or teased? Yeah, raise them high. Yeah, most of us, if not all. Sure. They always find something. So they have this bully-proofing program. Sounds great. Sounds great. The problem is, if they don't have a conscience, you can talk till the cows come home. They don't care. They delight in hurting somebody else's feelings. And we've got issues. We've got huge problems. What keeps us from going and killing the people who bullied us? You know, we might have thought about doing them in. We might have wished they'd fall off a cliff somewhere, but we didn't go do it. What stopped us? Yeah, our conscience. We would feel bad if we did something awful to somebody. That's what stops us from stealing. If I took your stuff, I would feel bad. I would be ashamed. It would be a burden on me. So I don't steal. If I lied to you, it would hurt me. It would echo in my mind that I looked in your eyes and I lied. A conscience is what keeps us from lying, from stealing, from hurting each other, from doing evil. And that's why attachment is so big. Because without a full conscience development, we're in trouble. And we're going to talk about the steps to conscience development and how we can assess where they're at and how we can impact it, because it's very important. All right? Abnormal eating patterns. They don't eat because they're hungry and stop when they're full. They play big-time games with the food. They eat too much, or they won't eat anything, or they only eat other people's food. Poor peer relationships in elementary school. They stand alone on the playground. You can spot them very quickly. The other children will not play with them. They know there's something wrong, and they should not play with them. They should stay away from them because they are dangerous. They are going to be bullies. They are going to be cruel. They are going to be manipulative. They'll talk them into doing inappropriate behaviors. All right? So they stand alone on the playground in elementary school. Usually by junior high or senior high, they'll find another kid as sick as they are, or someone that's weaker that will follow them, and they use them, to practice their manipulation skills on. But they don't have friends. Preoccupied with fire. There was a huge fire last night. I don't know how many of you saw the news, where the fireman was carrying the two little children down the ladder, and somebody said it because they were angry. Fire is a huge problem. I mean, it's very expensive and very destructive very quickly. Kids play with matches. They're kind of curious about those things, but I'm talking about setting fires intentionally. It's a symptom of attachment disorder because fire is very powerful, and they can do a lot of destruction with that. They're fascinated with blood and gore and evil and destruction. They often get into worshiping Satan and that kind of they don't focus on creation and beauty and love and God. They focus on destruction and evil. They identify with that. Persistent nonsense questions and incessant chatter, their mouth just goes. They use their words to interrupt, to control, and to make noise. Inappropriately demanding and clingy. This is one of the schoolyard shooters. They said he had been taught how to use a rifle, and that's why he went and shot those students. But if you take a look, this is him when he's a little guy, but here he is when he's a little bit older, the second picture on the right. When he was fed prison food that night after seeing the carnage that he created, he looked at that food and he said, I don't want this. I want pizza. That is somebody without a conscience. The boys in Columbine, when they were shooting, they were laughing as they went up and down the hallways killing, watching their friends be blown to bits. That is somebody without a conscience. We need to be very aware of attachment disorder and the impact that it has around us. There's been estimated, for years, the estimation was 800,000 children with attachment disorder in the United States, severe attachment disorder. The new stats, 1.5 million. We only have 600,000 children in foster care in the country. That's more than just the children in foster care. All right? Abnormal speech patterns. Children with attachment disorder don't speak clearly. They speak softly so you can't understand. So you're leaning, what is it? I'm sorry, I can't hear. Can you say that one more time? Or they don't pronounce their words properly so we can't understand them. They go into speech therapy, and the speech therapist has outstanding skills to help a child to be able to pronounce their R's and whatever. And other children get better in speech therapy. Children with attachment disorder don't. They say their R's, they get the piece of candy from the speech therapist, they go back to class, and they talk the same way they always have. Year after year, they're in speech therapy, and the therapist is starting to say, I just don't have the techniques to help this particular child. It's working with the other kids, but not with this one. It's because they don't want to communicate. They have no intention of improving their skills. Not interested in the help. Thank you very much. All right? There are certainly children who do have speech problems who benefit tremendously from having a speech therapist help them. Children with attachment disorder want adults going, what was that? I'm sorry, could you say that one more time? Just try it once more. Hello, soft. Can you speak up? Do I look powerful? No. They love it. Yeah, get down. Bow. Bow lower. Good. All right. False allegations of abuse. This is huge. Parents and teachers are very concerned about this because you can't prove you didn't do something. Do not be alone at home or in the classroom with a child with attachment disorder without being very prepared that they could go and say you touched them somewhere or you said something inappropriate. So if you have to meet with them in school, meet with them in the cafeteria when there's nobody in there, or out in the hall, or somewhere where it's open. At home, make sure that you've got a paper that says this child makes false allegations of abuse. Anybody who has heard the child threaten to make allegations fills out a paper, signs it, the therapist's number, everything's all there, and you carry copies of it because it's very, very destructive. I just got an email from a nurse. She is asked to leave her job until the allegations have been checked out. Well, you know how long that takes? Months or years. So she's a pediatric nurse. They can't have her working when she has allegations of child abuse. So the child's in foster care. She's expected to pay child support. She's lost her income, lost her reputation. And how can she prove she didn't do something? We're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But in this situation, you are guilty until proven innocent. So be very, very careful with that one. Presumptive entitlement issues. Children with attachment disorder believe they are to be served what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. And if they don't get it, then they go back to the false allegations of abuse. They'll come into school and say, oh, my dad beat me last night. See, I have a bruise. Wait a minute. Let me see where it is. Oh, yeah, I was playing soccer last week. Oh, yeah, see, my dad kicked me right there. And what really happened is Dad didn't let him watch a movie last night they wanted to see. So now Dad's going to pay. Triangulation of adults. This is their favorite game. We're going to cover this a little bit later on. But as long as they can divide and conquer, they stay sick. So it's huge. And the last one, parents appear hostile and angry. They are. All right? I fly all the time. I teach all over, and on airplanes, a lot of times people start a conversation and say, so what kind of work do you do? And, oh, I work with abused parents. Abused parents? I didn't know we had that. So, oh, yeah, it's called attachment disorder. Oh, okay, how does that happen? When you have a parent and they're like, and here's the child, something's wrong with this picture. Okay, the child should be there going, ah. Now, sometimes our kids do that. I've had them where I'm going through the grocery store and I go to scratch my head and they hit the deck. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm just scratching my head. But they're like, I got an audience. Watch this. And I'm like, I don't hit children. It doesn't help them. That's how they got this way sometimes, All right, let's work on the triangulation a little bit more. Because it's so huge. It's so huge. They get a part to play, okay? They select their own part. Maybe they're going to be the victim, like we were just talking about in the grocery store, and that would make me the perpetrator because I went to scratch my head there. And then they're looking for somebody to be the rescuer. I had a little girl who ate chapstick. Now, in Colorado, it's very dry, and we have to keep stuff on our lips all the time, or they crack and peel, we have a mess. So I have the children redo that first-year cycle where they ask for their needs to be met, so I can say yes. Well, I couldn't give her chapstick because she would just crank it up and the whole thing, and, it wasn't working very well on her lips that way. Probably had a nice, smooth gut, but, So I said, okay, I'm going to put your chapstick in this pocket over here, and I'll put my chapstick in this pocket over there, and when you need it, just holler and we'll fix you right up, all right? Well, I hadn't communicated with the teacher that we had this particular problem. So she went to school. She had not asked for any chapstick. Her lips were pretty dry, and I thought, well, they'll get dry, and she'll finally say, can I have some chapstick? I'll fix her up, Wouldn't ask. So her lips got pretty dry, so she peeled them till they were bloody. Spent a lot of time on that one. And she came home from school, and she said, my teacher bought me a chapstick. I said, what a loving teacher. She bought chapstick for everybody in the class? Only me. Oh, great. So what do we have here? All right. We have the poor, poor victim whose mother won't spend 25 cents for her little lips. Okay. And to the rescue, we have the teacher who cares so much about her students that she even cares about their little lips and will go on her lunchtime to buy chapstick 4 little sweetums. You think that teacher and I had good communication that year? She wouldn't listen to a thing I said because she knew I was a cold, uncaring mother. Because I had not communicated with her ahead of time. I dropped the ball. So the child got sicker and sicker and sicker as the teacher and I were on opposite sides of the triangle, and I finally had to pull her out of school and have her work at home with a tutor because we were going to lose her. It got that bad. If they have a sibling in the house that they can victimize, they're the aggressor, they victimize the sibling, again, the parent's going to come to the rescue. In school, if they can set it up where they've got a weaker or younger child, you know, maybe a handicapped child that they're going to pal around with, this is my buddy. When nobody's looking, they say stuff like, if you don't do what I say, I won't be your friend. And they manipulate and they control them, and it's very, very sick. It's very unfortunate. So we cannot let them divide. The teacher and the parents need to be communicating. They divide mom and dad. They're masters at it. So the model of success, that says mom in there, all right? We have to have mom on the team. She needs to know what techniques she has to do to get her child on track. And then in that cycle, we need to have mom and dad teamed up, working together. If we have a single parent, we team up 2 single parents. Because with a severely emotionally disturbed child, they're going to burn out one parent. So we team them up. They're working the same plan. Then in that model of success, we've got the therapist on the team. The therapist is communicating with the mom and the dad. They're all talking. They're interacting. The therapy has the parents in the room with the child. They are not seen separately. And school counselors a lot of times will meet with the family after school or at lunch if the family can come because they can't meet with the child separately. It's not effective. All right? And then the last cycle is, of course, the teacher on the team. So that the teacher has communication with the mom, the dad, and the therapist. Everybody knows the plan and is working it. The child is not able to divide and conquer because the teacher's letting the parents know what's going on in the daytime. The parents are letting the teacher know what's going on the rest of the day so that that communication is real clear and the team can work together. When we have all of the cycles together, the circles together, the child then is so encircled by this powerful team, they feel safe and they can heal. The first thing a child with attachment disorder must have is a feeling of safety, that they cannot manipulate and control the adults. All the adults are passing the tests, okay? That they can feel safe and trust these people. They found Arnold grandma combination in the adults that they're entrusted to, and they can just I can just be me. I can just be a child and do what I need to do and learn what I need to learn and play and laugh and grow. But they have to have the team working together for that to happen. All right? Now, we're all on this socialization scale at some point. On the far end of the spectrum here, where we have the huge, long, tall column, would be like Mother Teresa and Gandhi, where they love the poorest of the poor more than they love themselves. They're way, way attached, all right? Then we have the normal family next to that, where we love each other very much, but we're also a little bit self-centered. Then moving on down the continuum, we have like a con man who can sell something that's got stuff wrong with it and not feel bad about it. You know, they do that on eBay a lot. You know, something defective. Then moving on down, we have like 007 James Bond, where they can shoot somebody in the line of work and go out to dinner with some beautiful person. It doesn't bother them to do that. And then all the way down here on the second to the last one is something like a robber or a hooker. A robber controls people with their aggression. A hooker controls people through pity. They're equally disturbed, and they manipulate people for a living. And then the far end of the spectrum that's over here, where there's absolutely zero attachment, is a serial killer, where they have no connection whatsoever, and they actually delight in controlling people to the point that the serial killers have said that the ultimate rush of power for them is controlling somebody's breathing and heartbeat. And they end up killing with that. We're going to finish covering the understanding the different disorders. And we're going to start with depression. A lot of times you'll see this in the parents or in yourself. Because when we take hit after hit after hit on our nervous system, we end up with depression. So we need to be able to spot it. In your packet of handouts, you have a complete list of the symptoms of depression. I put a list together of what you can see from the outside if you think somebody else might have depression, because you don't know what they're thinking and feeling. Depression is a condition of low serotonin. All right? Serotonin is the happy juice that our brain makes that keeps us working on a level base. So when we don't have enough serotonin, we're, off track. Serotonin, most of it is made in the intestine. Yeah, I don't know why. God has a sense of humor is the only thing I can figure, But when I read that, I went back and looked at the records of my children. I shared with you, I have 3 birth children. I have 3 adopted children. I've had pretty close to 100 foster children in our home in the 30 years that we've worked with children. So, actually it's 35 now. I'm getting up there. But with the emotionally disturbed children, it's 30 years. So I went back and looked at the records of my kids, and I found many of them had constipation problems. All of them had intestinal gas problems, a lot of intestinal gas problems. And that's the gut saying, we're not working right. We've got something going on here. We have problems. So serotonin, the intestine has to be working properly to make the serotonin for the brain to be able to function. So we need to be feeding our children right. If they've been on antibiotics at some point, or if we've been on antibiotics at some time in our lives, we have to replace the good bacteria. It doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It has to be put back when we have killed it off with some kind of medication. So to put it back in there, we have to take in what's called acidophilus. Acidophilus is available at the health food store. It's what they make yogurt out of. All right, if you eat yogurt or kefir, the good bacteria is in there and it can be replaced. It's not a one-shot deal. It takes weeks, sometimes months, of taking that in 3 times a day to build it up before the intestinal tract can be healthy. When our intestines isn't working right, not only do we have a problem with serotonin, we have a problem absorbing our B vitamins. And without enough B vitamins, we go insane. I mean, locked away in the loony bin, insane. If we don't have enough vitamin B12, we start with losing our energy, and then pretty soon we're cranky, and then pretty soon we can't concentrate. You have 1 inch of your intestine that absorbs B vitamins. If your intestine isn't working right, it doesn't absorb it, you don't have any energy. Okay? So we need to be taking good care of our bodies for our brains to be able to work. And the brain is where our behavior comes from. So we've got to deal with all of that. When we have depression, we don't have a sense of humor anymore. Nothing's funny. We have an inability to focus. We have low problem-solving skills. And with that inability to focus and the low problem-solving skills, a lot of times we start feeling like we caught ADD from the kids. I can't think straight. I don't know. I can't remember what I'm doing. We walk in a room to get something, can't even remember what we came in there to get. Over and over and over, We have a hopeless feeling. When we can't focus and we have low problem-solving skills, we have a hopeless feeling because we can't solve the situation. And because of that, the suicidal thoughts begin. This is why depression is so huge. We're losing a lot of our teenagers to depression. The suicide rates are high in the U.S. We're losing parents, we're losing teenagers, we're losing teachers. Low energy. I don't know, I can't seem to get anything done. I can't get up and get dressed in the morning. I can't get the breakfast done. I can't get the papers taken care of. We don't have any energy when we have depression because it's affecting the whole body, that's affecting the brain. We need to be taking care of ourselves. Signs of bipolar disorder. Now, I went back and used the original diagnostic tools that we used to use. There was a book published called The Bipolar Child that has caused huge amounts of confusion because the research that that book was based on was done on mice and rats, and it was done on attachment. And they wrote a book on bipolar using the research on attachment. So they combined the symptoms of attachment disorder with the symptoms of bipolar disorder, and it's just created havoc. All right? So the original things we used to use to diagnose bipolar, rapid mood swings. With a child with attachment disorder, you say no, they blow. Child with bipolar disorder, you don't have to say no, they blow. They're just like coloring, da, 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 boom. What happened? Mood swing. All right? Long rages, over an hour and a half. Now, when I talk about a rage, I'm going to show a short film here of a rage. How many of you live with an emotionally disturbed child? Okay, about a third, yeah. When I talk about rages, those of you who live with these children have a picture in your mind of a rage. When I talk about a rage to somebody who doesn't live with a child with attachment disorder or bipolar disorder, they have a completely different picture. They picture, no, and I want it now. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay? I'm talking about a rage, all right? A child with attachment disorder can rage for, half an hour, hour and a half maximum. A child with bipolar disorder can rage for 4 and 5 hours. If you were acting in a play or in a movie, and you had to be a person with bipolar disorder for this performance, you would not have the physical endurance that it takes to put on that level of rage for that length of time. But their adrenal gland kicks in, and they have more strength than a normal human being when they're in a mood swing, a rageful mood swing. Notice how your body feels right now. Okay, do you feel it? A lot of times we get tension in the back of our neck, start spreading out our shoulders. We get a knot in our stomach watching this child's pain. That response was because I told her I wanted her to make her bed. She threw herself down on the bathroom floor and lost complete control of herself. And she has gone all the way back to her early childhood trauma and is saying with her foul language, I apologize for her, but that's how they throw a fit. With her foul language, she's saying, I've been sexually abused and I'm afraid you're going to do the same thing to me. So she's saying sexual terms and projecting it at me. A couple of times she started to put her thumb in her mouth. Did you see how she was doing that? As she had, as an infant, trying to self-soothe. I feel empty, I need to suck, I don't have a mom, I have to use my thumb. So she was trying to settle herself even though she was in a full-blown rage. The screams were coming from her abdomen as an infant screams. Her whole body was involved in the process. The other children in the home, when a child does this, the rest of them go into the same response times 10 that you just felt with 1 minute of that. If that child were bipolar, that's an attachment disorder rage. But if that child were bipolar, she would do that level of rage for 4 and 5 hours. So when a mom has a child who does this, when she says, I want you to make your bed, okay? And a teacher says, this child has to get their schoolwork done. I want it turned in. And the mom's like, oh, whoa. Because what the teacher is asking the parent to do is face this. And it's overwhelming. And it's overwhelming to all of the children in the home. And yet, the child has to learn to do their schoolwork. They have to learn to get dressed. They have to learn to make their bed and brush their teeth. It's all part of the process. But when the mom doesn't have the skills, and you say, I want you to get the child to do something, their eyes are going to get big. They're just going to look at you like, oh my gosh, you have no idea what you're asking me to do. And then teachers who don't realize what's going on at home start thinking, what's wrong with this woman? How come she can't get her child to sit and do schoolwork? You know, or why can't the child get her teeth brushed and her hair combed in the morning? What's the big deal? Kids brush their teeth, but it's a huge big deal when we have an emotionally disturbed child in the home. And we need to be able to offer help and support and encouragement to the parents rather than blame and pushing at them. And the child needs to learn to do those things. So we're going to talk about how to get that done. But they do have long rages when they have bipolar disorder. They crave salt and salty foods. They're forever putting too much. Mom says, that's enough, that's enough. Salty foods like chips and that kind of thing. Extreme needle phobia, if they have to have a physical and they have blood drawn for the physical, usually takes several nurses to hold them down, and they're just going berserk. They're hypersexual. They have extreme highs. They're too happy for what's going on. They're too sad for the event that occurred, or they're too angry so there's an overreaction to whatever is going on with bipolar disorder. And they cannot stop the mood swing, but they can identify it before it happens. So what we're doing with the bipolar children now, of course, we're getting the medication to help with the mood swings, but when they feel a mood swing coming on, it's kind of like an epileptic seizure to them. They can tell when it's going to happen, and we're teaching them to isolate themselves, okay, to go to their room or to go to a place in the school where they can vent and just do what they need to do. As an adult, they need to go sit out in their car in the parking lot or something because they can't be in the office when they're going ballistic, and do what they need to do, get themselves back together, and come back to the group, all right? But it takes some skill for them to be able to do that. Signs of ADD or ADHD, the inability to focus. They have a hard time concentrating, not only on work. They have a hard time concentrating on play. Now, originally, it was about 25 years ago, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual came out with the diagnosis of ADD, and this is what it said: the inability to focus, distractible, and the dopamine imbalance is what causes those things. So they modify the DSM every few years and put a new version out, revisions all included. If you look at the diagnostic criteria for ADD or ADHD today, we all have it. Yeah. I mean, it is that bad. It is ridiculous. We have 4 million children in the United States on Ritalin today, and 1 million adults. That's 5 million people diagnosed with ADD that's supposed to be a genetic disorder. How do you get epidemic proportions of a genetic disorder? Interesting, huh? And they haven't found the genetic link in bipolar disorder or in ADD. But they tell parents it's genetic. They have not found the genetic link. They may at some point, but there might not be one. It could be environment. It could be the way they're eating. It could be something else. I don't know. But I do know that it's way overdiagnosed. And we need to be diagnosing our children more appropriately. Because when they have the medication for the situation that they've got, the symptoms are taken care of. And that is not what's happening. When they were doing the research on the medications for ADD, I got to tell you, 1/3, 30% of all of the clients that were given the placebo, the fake pill, responded the same as the ones who were given the medication. So when I read that, I'll tell you what I did. I got lentils, and I put them in a prescription bottle. And I put a number of my children on lentils, which is protein, And I had one teacher call me and say, this is the best 6 weeks this student has ever had in school. What are you doing different at home? Lentils. All right? Now, I am not saying every child who has ADD is going to be cured by lentils. I am not saying that, okay? They do need medication if they have ADD. But I always like to try the least destructive method first, okay? And if lentils is going to help the child to focus, I'm going to go there before I'm going to go with the medications that have all the side effects. And it's a fun experiment, all right? Dopamine is a chemical that our brain makes, like the serotonin. And it's pretty interesting because to make dopamine, you have to have tyrosine, which is an amino acid. It's part of a protein, right? And it's made from phenylalanine, which is another amino acid, which is a part of a protein. So they have to have protein. To break that protein down, they have to have carbohydrates with the protein. They have to have vitamin C and vitamin B6, all in their system at the same time to make dopamine, or they can't concentrate. And I think ADD is causing the Well, I know ADD is a dopamine imbalance. They don't have enough dopamine. But for some reason, the body's not being able to break down the food, or they're not being fed the food that their body needs to have to create the dopamine. All right? ADD. All right, we're going to talk about brains. I love this brain part. Wait till you guys see these pictures. They're so cool. All right? This is a normal, healthy brain. The red part is the most electrical energy. Then the yellow part is a little bit less than the red. And then green is less than that. Then there's a really thin, teeny little purple line, bluish purple, right around the edges right here that you can just barely see. All right? And then where it's dark is where there's no brain activity at all. So where do you see the most electrical energy in this brain? Yeah, right here. That's where we have our ability to pay attention. That's where we have our ability to control ourselves, manage our behavior, manage our moods. Or we have ADD, and we have no self-control right here. Okay? This is an abused child's brain. Yeah. When I first saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, looks like Swiss cheese. There's less working than there is not working. I mean, we're in trouble here. And it made me so sad. It's like these children are limping through life with half of a brain functioning. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, we can't ask them to brush their teeth or make their bed or do their homework because half their brain's gone. They can't do it. It's too overwhelming for them. And then I realized, you know what? For over 30 years now, we've been teaching these children to brush their teeth and make their bed and do their schoolwork and act like human beings and be responsible. That's the cool thing. This brain can heal. Is that cool or what? But we need to know what we need to do to help this brain to become healthy. But in the beginning, is it okay for us to be angry with a child when their behavior is coming out of that brain? If we say, I want you to get in there and make your bed, is it going to happen? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're going to have a meltdown, like you just saw that little girl doing. All right? So, we don't get angry with our children. We don't get angry with the students. We don't get angry with our children. They cannot help it in the beginning. It's just like if you had a child in a wheelchair and you went and whacked them in the head and said, get out of there, you're lazy. I mean, yeah, we would never do that. It's terrible, of course. But with our children, we're doing that. We get so angry and frustrated because of the behavior coming out of the brain. But the brain has a problem. It's limping along, not functioning properly. So we need to understand how we can help this brain. Where do you see the most juice in this brain? Yes, that back part of the brain. Now, that back part of the brain is bigger and more powerful than the rest of the brain. See it? Look back at the healthy brain. Okay? See, it's a lot more active there. All that juice in the front part. Then we get to the abused child's brain. That back part. So it's kind of like if you were lifting weights. Okay, you got a weight set. And you just lift with one arm over and over and over. You're going to lift this heavy weight over and over and over for a couple of years. What's this arm going to look like? Powerful, right? Big and strong. It's going to be bigger. Okay, put this one in a sling. Say it's all wrapped up, and you don't use it for a couple of years. What's this one going to look like? Yeah, all puny and shriveled up, right? That's what's going on with this brain here. That forehead part is all shriveled up. It's actually smaller, physically smaller, and much less activity than the healthy brain. And this back part is much bigger and much more active because that's where the child has spent most of his time. That back part of the brain is called the R complex. It's where we have the fight. We get defensive. I didn't do it. It's not my fault. It's where we throw temper tantrums. We argue. We get negative. It's too hard. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. You're wrong. We flight. You know, we have a flight there where we run away. We get hypervigilant. We're stress-filled and anxious. Or our brain freezes. We just shut down. We shut down learning. We dissociate. We activate that back part of the brain. We get it pumping iron, so to speak, with fear, threats, intimidation, criticism, and negative input. Fear. Well, a lot of us aren't sneaking around going boo to the kids. I mean, that's not something we do. Usually the children do that to us, okay? But how do we instill fear in a child? we get angry. When we're angry, our eyes are like daggers, you know? Woo. Children with attachment disorder prefer negative attention to positive attention because it activates that back part of the brain where they are the most comfortable. That's their comfort zone. If we take a look back at that brain, that back part of the brain has gotten that big because they spent so much time there. That comfort zone, it's like, you know how when you're out of town, you're on vacation or something, and you sleep somewhere else, and it's a nice place to sleep, but it's not the same as when you get home and you have your pillow and your blanket and your bed, you know. Even the chair you're sitting in. If you got up and went out to lunch and came back and sat in that, you know, went to sit in that chair and somebody else was in it, you'd be like, excuse me, that's my chair. You know, well, it's not. It belongs to the people that own the building, but we kind of make that our comfort zone. We spread our stuff out. We make our nest, you know, that kind of thing. This is that child's comfort zone. So they're going to do whatever they can to stay in their comfort zone because that's where they feel like they fit the most. And they're going to make adults around them angry to activate that back part of the brain, and then they go, this is where I fit. But the adults are going, why am I so angry every time I'm around this child? The child's doing it. They become masters at how to push the buttons to make the adults around them angry. If the adults around them love them, because that's very threatening. If it's a stranger, then it doesn't matter to them. And they just play games with their control. Threats. If you do that one more time, I'm going to is a threat. Activates that back part of the brain. Some of the schools are told to threaten the children. They have a red light, yellow light, green light system. You get a red light, you know, this is going to happen, but we'll start with the green light and we'll move to the yellow before we move to the red. To the child with attachment disorder, that is a threat. It's going to activate the wrong part of the brain. We're going to see more inappropriate behavior. So, you know, writing the name on the board, putting a check mark after it, then the next time there's a consequence with our kids, backfires. They must have a consequence the first time. Well, when I'm working with teachers, a lot of times they say, well, I can't consequence the first time. I can't have this child treated differently from that child. I can't treat one child different from another child. So, yes, you can. I have faith in you. You know? Every child is different. And these children have special needs. If you had a child with like hemophilia, where they were a bleeder, and you have two children, one has hemophilia, the other one doesn't, and they both have bloody noses, I guarantee you, you will treat them differently. One will need an ambulance, and the other one will need a paper towel. Maybe a trip to the nurse's office, okay? But they have special needs. So these children with attachment disorder must be consequenced the first time they test, talking without raising their hand, or whatever it is that they're doing, all right? We don't threaten, we just do it. A lot of times we feel like it's a warning. Well, honey, if you do that again, I'll have to do such and such. The child's brain sees it as a threat. So we don't use words, we use action, all right? Action, not words. Action, not anger. I cannot stress that enough, how important it is. These children learn from the actions, not our words. All right? Intimidation. You know, we kind of puff up, because I said so. We get a little bit bigger. My dog does that. When she gets a little threatened, her hackles go up. Well, we put our hackles up, because I said so. Oh, criticism. They look for, how can I get you to criticize me instead of praise? And they set us up, and they change us from how we want to be with children into feeling like we're a warden, or, you know, a screaming Mimi, or whatever. We're like, I'm not just doing that, you know. And then we look in the mirror and say, whoa, what happened to me? That's not who I want to be. And the child has molded us and sculpted us instead of us molding and sculpting them. We've given them control of our emotions and allowed them to have us be angry and threatening and intimidating, criticizing, and being very negative. So we need to be very aware. And we even call it that. So-and-so made me mad. When he does that, it makes me so mad. And we're admitting that person's in control of our feelings. I can have a child screaming, yelling, total obscenities, going completely berserk, and I just say, wow, you're having a lot of feelings. I don't have to catch it. It's okay. I don't have to go, he's mad. Look at him, he's mad. I got to get mad too. It's like, wow, you got a lot of feelings going on there. I see that. You know, it's a free country. Express yourself. Go for it. When you get done, you can clean up the mess. All right? That first part of the brain, the R complex, sits right on top of the spine. And that's the first part that develops after conception. If it doesn't develop properly, if there's cracks in that foundation of the brain, the next part of the working part of the mind, the limbic system, it's made up of a bunch of the different parts of the brain itself. But the limbic system will be even more off track. And the limbic system is what we talked about when we were talking about cocaine early on, when the mother takes cocaine before the baby's born. This is where we have our emotions, all of our emotions. The ones we're going to focus on are the love, the kindness, caring, appreciation, compassion, and attachment. Limbic system is activated by a feeling of safety. Remember we talked about if you had to go down that alley, how you would want somebody powerful and strong who loved you enough to protect you. That's what these children have to have. Loving leadership. Not military drill sergeant, you will jump because I said jump. Not like that. But loving leadership. I'm in control. I've got it. You can relax and be a kid. Right? That kind of a thing.